Welcome, homeowners, electricians. In this episode of Homeowners Electrical Professor, under circuit breakers, I was talking about the reasons for circuit breakers to trip overloads and fault current. Um, Unfortunately, it's hard for me to recreate fault current scenarios without the danger of physical damage or there's plenty of videos. You can just, if you Google short circuit fault videos, there's thousands of them out there that show the danger of when there's a short circuit or a ground fault and circuit breakers have to rapidly shut off. When I did my ground fault videos, I was able to recreate a ground fault situation safely, and I showed that in those videos. You can look that up. And I'm also able to do it for an overload situation. Now, circuit breakers, they have two functions. Like I said, the one function is called the thermal part, which is what an overload allows it to trip. So I'll just briefly go over it again. When the current flow exceeds the current value of the circuit breaker, there's a bimetal strip. It heats up, it slowly separates and trips the circuit breaker open. The more the overload, the faster the trip time. This is referred to as an inverse time function. Basically, an overload occurs when there are too many items plugged into the same branch circuit. A good example is a bathroom circuit that has more than one bathroom receptacle on it, which is allowed by the NEC. And in the morning, you have multiple people using hair dryers. Hair dryers normally on a 1500 watt hair dryer pulls about 12 to 13 amps. If two of them are running on a 20 amp breaker, eventually that 25 or 26 amps, it's going to trip the circuit breaker. It doesn't happen immediately because it's an overload. It's not a short circuit. So it might take a couple of minutes, and I can demonstrate that for you, and I have a video of that. Welcome, homeowners and future electricians. I'm going to continue on with the circuit breakers here. What we're going to discuss is an overload, where you have a branch circuit and there's too many items plugged in and it exceeds the current value listed on the circuit breaker. In this one here, I've isolated a branch circuit that's 20 amps that feeds the bathrooms, and I have some hair dryers plugged in. And what we're going to do is we're going to plug in. We'll see how much current is being drawn on the ammeter, and then we'll plug in a second one, watch the current go up above the rating of 20 amps on the circuit breaker, and eventually the circuit breaker will trip off because of the overload. But since it's not a short circuit or a ground fault or anything like that, where it's a massive inrush, it's just an overload, it takes a few seconds for that to happen, and we'll talk about that. Okay, we turned on the one hair dryer, and the one hair dryer, as you can see, is drawing a little over 13 amps, all right? So now what we're going to do is we're going to turn on a second hair dryer. Okay, now we've turned on the second hair dryer, and as you can see, it's drawing 25 amps, which is more than the 20 amps that the circuit breaker is rated for, but it's not a high inrush of current. So it's going to take a few seconds. We'll wait it out. We'll see how long it takes. While we're waiting for this to trip off, as you can see here, here's my hot wire, here's my neutral. I made this up just so there'll be less confusion. I isolated the two wires, and as you can see, both wires have the same amount of current on them. 25 amps going out, 25 amps coming in. As you can see, the circuit breaker tripped off, okay, because of the overload. The circuit breaker tripped off, and that is breaker number 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. Now, the interesting thing about circuit breakers is that when they're on, they're fully to one side. When they're off, they're fully to the other side, okay? But when they trip, they're kind of stuck in this little position in the middle where they just wiggle back and forth. So if you have a breaker that's tripped, sometimes you have to run your finger down and feel each one until you feel the one that has been tripped. Now, if you're not sure why it tripped, whether it was an overload or a short circuit, you're going to have to push it to the off position and then turn it back on. Now, if you had a short circuit or a problem with the wiring, this breaker would immediately trip off, like I talked about before, where you have that inrush of current. This was an overload, so the breaker resets, okay?